Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for being up bright and early to hopefully become a little bit more excited about your study abroad experience. My name is Annie Gibson, and I'm the director of the Office of Study Abroad. And I'm excited to be here with you today to go through some tips to help you start thinking about how you might get the most out of your experience. And right now is the time to start thinking about what those things might be to get you to design the opportunities that you want to have during study abroad. And how do we do that? It's for you to begin to think holistically about your study abroad experience, thinking about, okay, who are the people that I want to know and understand more? And so this will mean both what will you do to prepare yourself to learn more about your host country and the different peoples and identities that you will come into contact with, and also your peers. So study abroad is an intense experience. In some ways kind of replicates what you went through your freshman year of college, that again, you're going to be thrown into a diverse cohort of students studying abroad and thinking about what you'll do to make the most out of that. So designing is about a mindset. It's about the tools that you will use to meet whatever your goals are, to be connected to your academic experiences, to gain clarity about your career path, and to deepen your sense of being able to engage interculturally. So what we're going to do in this workshop is to work through some tips about how to do this. And for the beginning part of this, I just want to bring to everyone's attention, if you could put yourself on mute. We'll have another portion where you'll be able to chat with one another. But just to keep the background noise to a minimum, please go into your profile and put yourself on mute if you haven't already. And so when I studied abroad, when I was your age, I went into the experience having some slight ideas about what I wanted to do. In my case, I wanted to deepen my language learning. I studied Spanish and Portuguese in college. And so I knew I wanted to stay with a host family. I knew I wanted to deepen my sense of how I could operate in day-to-day in another language. But beyond that, I hadn't really thought that much about the type of experience that I wanted to have. And on the ground, there was a lot of learning I had to do in terms of the country, and in my case, the countries I was going to. How do you travel? What were the methods of transport? Where were the safe ways to travel? How would I actually connect to local people? I thought, I'm going to be going to a local university. So just being in the class with other students is going to mean that I'm going to be able to integrate myself. But it was actually much more complicated. I had to think through and redesign when I arrived, because just being in a classroom doesn't always mean that you're going to have this integration. And so I had to think about what are the ways that I really will set myself up to do this. So moving forward. So when you are the designer of your own experience, it's important to think about what you want. What are the want at the end of your study abroad experience, and what's the research that you can do now to best set yourself up. So with I do a lot of work on what students learn when they study abroad. It's one of my research topics. And in fact, we talk about study abroad as being transformational as this time. And it is, students come back and say, wow, the experience really transformed me. I had this new way of seeing the world. But in fact, what we learn is that just immersion in a new culture doesn't actually equal having a deeper sense of cultural learning. And in fact, we have many cases where students study abroad and regress on the scale of development, that they might instill stereotypes even deeper than they had before. And so it really is about how will you create a plan for yourself where you really are starting to understand the deeper forms of knowledge, being able to shift your perspective to seeing it from many different points of view. So you're not just there and expecting it to immerse itself and through immersion for you to gain this insight, but you're setting yourself up for the most positive successes. So how do we do this? So one is that you're starting to get a sense of the people who you're going to be in contact with while you're there. Because the thing about study abroad and experiential learning is figuring out how you can best learn from each other and in what kind of settings are you going to do it. So yes, you're going to be learning in the classroom. And every single day that you go to the grocery store or you interact to book travel somewhere, or that you decide to meet friends out for dinner, each one of those things is a learning moment where you're outside of how the ways things normally work. And so the more that you have a sense of, okay, what are some of the baseline norms that I might see in these interactions, the better off that you'll be. And also, what kind of connections do you want to have? How does it fit in with where you're going? So as you're thinking about, okay, when I'm studying abroad, why am I doing this? What are my goals beyond simply the act of being in a foreign country for a little bit of time? Is it because of language learning? Is it because you would like to have an increased sense of intercultural competence and understand your host country? Is it because you want to travel across Europe? All of these are valid goals. But as you start to articulate them, you also start to see where there might be some conflicts. So for example, if one of my goals is that I want to travel through Europe, and another one of my goals is to really learn my host country culture, well, those things can be in conflict, because if you think about it, what would it be like to learn about New Orleans if every weekend you traveled somewhere else? To have that kind of deep knowledge of New Orleans might mean that you have to choose to stay put. It might mean that you need to find and meet people outside of your two-lane bubble. Whereas to travel every weekend has other benefits. You gain independence. You learn how to operate perhaps outside of your comfort zone alone. You learn different types of transportation and infrastructure and how to navigate it. But those goals might in some ways be in opposition. So it's a chance to test those things out. And you all at this point have chosen your study abroad program, and your program matters. And while your program is going to shape a lot of the types of experiences you have, it's the everyday decisions when you're on site that will really set apart what your experience is like. So will you be hanging out with friends mostly on your program, or are you going to figure out ways to meet locals? So that's an important experience. Oftentimes, study abroad might be set up to more easily put you in contact with others that are going through a similar experience. So you're going to be in a study abroad cohort, people going through the same challenges of culture shock, people in the same boat of wanting to have an academic experience while also wanting to enjoy the fact that, for 4 or 5 months they're in another country and wanting to see it. So it's easier to connect. You have these things in common with people in your cohort. But if one of your goals is to meet locals, it's gonna ask you to design things, to find those places of where you're going to interact. So how will you do it? And a lot of that depends on who you are as an individual. So When I was studying abroad, one of the ways that I did that, I had two main ways. One was that I was a soccer player, and soccer was a great way to meet other people. I started going to a park regularly where I could play soccer. I studied abroad in Argentina and in Brazil, and in both of those places, actually, women didn't play that much soccer, and so it always became a conversation starter. I met some friends through that, male friends, and then also a few other females that here and there would play, and then the whole like family and social world. So girlfriends and mothers and fathers of the people that I would play soccer with on the weekends. So that was one way in which, through this shared hobby, I was able to make connections. Another way that has always been one of my ways of connecting is through social dancing. I like to, in Argentina, I learned how to dance tango. And that became a really important way that I had this activity that I could do to meet others. I was kind of a shy person. So for me, doing an activity together with others was really helpful. But now is the time to think about what might be the ways that you will try to connect. So it could be, do you want to join a gym and go to a gym regularly? Is there a coffee shop where you want to sit and do your homework every week, where you could get to know your barista? Are you interested in doing a service or an internship opportunity? That's also a way where students often get really involved in the local community. And today, your experiences are also much different due to technology. So we have a certain ways that we use apps and things to connect with one another. You guys might have some group me's, for example, or something like that. What are the types of technology that they use in your host country to connect, and how can you get into that? So learning, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's a local chat of some kind, following the accounts, Instagram accounts that are local to where you are, all the different ways that you learn this other cultural way that people are connecting, so that you can find those things to do and go to those places and find those local events that you might not know otherwise. And so really thinking, how do people do this? What are the types of ways that people are using technology to connect in your local setting? As you're choosing your places to go out, you'll get a sense, as in many of the locations where you're going, that they're going to be certain places that are set up for students, and in fact, set up for study abroad students. You are a target market, you are a target experience, right? So, both in terms of your spending habits and in terms of the type of location that they will cater for you. So there are a lot of bars, for example, that really cater to international students and tourists, that are young tourists that are kind of traveling around, and they might have kind of give you the experience to a certain extent, help you do those things that feel like what you expect the local experience to be like. So, for example, if you're studying abroad in Spain, there'll be bars that are targeted to study abroad students that would have that kind of tapas and wine experience, but that is really set up for an outsider. So your drinks are going to be a little bit more expensive. Most of the people you hear around you will be speaking English. So while you might want to do that because you're hanging out with others that are doing similar things than you, where are the places that locals are actually going? What are they actually doing? So finding those times to connect is important. Thinking about getting out of your comfort zone and making the effort to speak the local language independently if you're studying that language or not. Not just assuming that the whole world is going to speak in English as the default language. That's a really important piece of kind of validating that you see another person, that you see the people around you, that you have a sense of humility in the way that you travel. There's a lot of privilege with being an English speaker as you travel around. Things are going to be a lot easier for you. However, you can choose to acknowledge that someone in their own presence. And this doesn't mean that you have to know another language fluently. With 10 words, you can communicate so much in terms of saying that someone else matters. And a similar thing in terms of, as you're thinking about your classes and your classroom, what you'll choose in terms of what authors are you citing? Are you finding local sources, or are you defaulting to a US or Western view of your host culture? So all of those things are things to keep in mind. And as you're figuring out at when you're getting started, you might think you just don't know what you don't know. You don't know that much about your host country, so you're just gonna wait and see upon arrival, what you think is the best thing to do. And there is a certain amount of learning the skill of being able to respond in the moment to challenges that might arise, or to learn to work forward off of the opportunities that are going to present you. And each case is going to be different. Your local experience, the people that you meet will influence how you'll decide to move forward. But there's a lot that you can be doing right now to set yourself up to potentially have the types of experiences that you want. So there's a lot, study abroad. There's been a lot of research on study abroad. There's been a ton of students at Tulane that have gone abroad. We have a lot of international students here that are going through on Tulane's campus what you're going to be going through next semester. And we have a lot of advisors, both study abroad advisors and your academic advisors, who have studied abroad themselves or who have insights into your host culture that you can meet with. For connecting with students, we have returnees, students that have gone on other programs. You can find them on our website who want to talk about what it was like. So you can find them on our website. If you don't see someone from your program on the website, you can email us and we can get you in touch with them. And we have peer advisors that can talk about their experience. We have your advisors, of course, that you should be checking in with. And you might think about doing service while you're abroad. First, there are a few of you in this course that are in this session that are already enrolled in a pre-departure course with me that is exploring service learning options during study abroad. But whether you're taking it as a course or not, the opportunity to volunteer abroad is one of the ways where I see students engaged the most with their local settings. And oftentimes these experiences go on to become students' projects for their capstone or graduation final papers and things like that. For me, when I was studying abroad, I went in not having any sort of capstone or anything like that, but the experience of all that I learned when I studied abroad in Brazil from everyday people, from my interactions with people as I was on the beach playing futevôlei, to when I was interacting with my host mom, to when I was interacting with the people that would be in the local market where I shopped, or in the parking garage of my of my host family building. All of those people influenced me so much that it put me on a path to wanting to study anthropology and something called ethnography, which I'll talk a little bit about moving forward. But the more that you can kind of find ways to connect is really important. There's also through study abroad, oftentimes it's really hard to do an international internship because of visa reasons, that it's hard to get that experience. If you just decide, for the summer, I want to take an internship and study internationally, that can be hard because of the visa classification. But during study abroad, it's actually the perfect time to get an internship because you're classified as a student and you can often secure an internship on that student visa doing the type of work that you want to do. So there's opportunities to ask at your local institution or your program provider if doing an internship in your field is of interest. That's also a great way to gain experience and learn about locals. Through the Office of Study Abroad here at Tulane, as well as your local, as well as your host community, we're often looking for students that want to be travel bloggers or be your peer advisors, and those might be other opportunities for you. I'm going to just send a reminder again to take a look at, make sure that you have yourself on mute if you're just joining. So at this time, I'm going to give you a few examples from past students of how they had designed their study abroad. So the first story I'm going to tell you about is Mira. Mira is a senior here at Tulane. She's majoring in public health and cell and molecular biology. So she's got a Spanish minor. And she went abroad in the spring of 2022 on an SIT program, which was a multi-country experience where she went to India and South Africa and Jordan. And she designed her experience because she was really thinking, she knew she wanted to work in public health. She knew that she was interested in structural violence and in people's access to medicine, but she just wasn't quite sure what branch of public health she was interested in going into. So she chose a program specifically because she wanted to learn about a lot of different branches of public health. And that's why she thought that the multi-country experience would work for her, because she would be able to see something from many different perspectives and compare how people thought about wellness in other contexts. And she was also interested in thinking about it in urban spaces and in rural spaces. And she, through this program, decided to design a research project for herself. And her semester really focused around her coming up with a research project that would help her think about what type of public health she wanted to go in moving forward. And then also understanding globally how different perceptions around health exist. So the way we think about wellness, the way we think about what medicine looks like varies from country to country. And so that's how she designed her experience, to learn about that. And then she had to think about all kinds of things that go beside it. So tangentially. So she thought about, okay, my cohort experience, my other students that are studying abroad with me are really, really important because I want to learn from them and with them. So she spent more time with her other students on her cohort who were going through similar experiences, because she wanted some people with whom she could constantly reflect about the experiences that she was having as she was visiting NGOs. She made a very close relationship with a professor who also became someone that she continued to reflect on, and now is doing research and moving forward and thinking about research on infectious disease. And that's really helped her study abroad guided her decision there. So one way that you could design study abroad, like Mira did, was really thinking about what's my academic purpose and how can I use this time to gain new perspectives, to field perhaps from a decolonial perspective. So outside of what I've been taught so far, how are other people thinking about this? And that's what she did. So this is an example. And Mira, you can touch base with Mira to learn more about that, or to get insights from what that was like for her through connecting with our office. The next story I'm going to tell you is about Ilana. Ilana is one of our study abroad advisors in the office. She's our newest advisor. And she studied abroad in Cali, Colombia during COVID. So she was on a program that was looking at race, ethnicity, and identity through an Afro-Colombian perspective. And for Ilana, she knew first that she wanted to study abroad somewhere that would connect her to the Black diaspora. And at first she was thinking that she wanted to go to Africa. And it just happened that she met another student at Tulane, where she went to Howard University. So she met a student at Howard who started telling her about this program in Cali, Colombia. She hadn't heard of it before. In fact, she didn't really at the time even know that Cali had a large Afro-Colombian population. But as she learned about it, she realized that it was the perfect program for her because she was studying Spanish as a major. She was really involved in social justice work. She herself is Afro-Latina, though she hadn't been as connected to that part of her identity until she studied abroad. So she used it as this time to really connect to who she was and to get a sense of how she fit into a larger conversation around the topics that were important to her as a person. So this is really important because she really highlighted when she and I talked about her experiences about the importance of the people that she met in helping her gain that insight. So one, it was this person that she met at her local university that shared with her a part of a world that she didn't know existed. The next thing that was important to her as a Black woman traveling was to get a sense of, well, what's it like to be there? Am I going to be safe? Who are the other, what will it be like to travel as a Black woman? And so she found some local Afro-descendant women groups within Cali that she really connected to. And it became so important to her time. So while she was there was the semester that the world changed and COVID shut down. And in fact, she ended up not coming back that semester. She was so connected to local groups that she had some personal issues at home that made it that she didn't want to come home and cause extra stress on her family, that she decided to stay put and stay where she was. And it was through these connections that she actually built before she even arrived in Cali. So through these online groups that she arrived already having a community. She also was into capoeira, Brazilian capoeira, and there was a community there. And capoeira is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. And so she also was plugged in that way. So she had to be very flexible. So that was an example of really doing your research ahead of time and deciding the type of places and people that you want to connect with. And even right now, before arrival, setting yourself up to have a sense of community. And then two, the importance of this growth mindset during COVID, because her life really changed. There was a lot of stress, and she had to really navigate those things carefully. And the experience that she had ended up shaping her course. So study abroad has been so important to her. You know, now she's landed in the office of study abroad advising others because it was so transformational. But she also, of her time in Cali, right after graduation, she was hired in Washington, D.C. to work for an organization that was doing research and writing about environmental struggles for Afro-descended populations in Colombia. So it became an important, it set her on a certain path. It's opened up fellowship opportunities for her through her time abroad. So the more that you can have a sense of who you are, what do I want to study, and connect early, and then also be flexible as things change. Her story is a great example of that. And the next story I'm going to tell you is about Kat. Kat is our program coordinator in the Office of Study Abroad. She's also a new member here to the office. She's joined this semester. And when Kat studied abroad, she's a first gen student. She's got her passport for the very first time to be able to study abroad. She learned about the experience. She went to a Study Abroad 101 session, and hadn't ever thought that study abroad was something for her. She didn't have any family that had modeled that for her in a certain way. And she, but through that experience, learned, okay, what do I need to do to get a passport, to get a visa? As you guys may you may have started to learn, the visa process can be kind of stressful. So she plugged herself into her advisors and to her local study abroad office. She studied abroad at Amherst, and she used that help and those resources and that support to walk her through things, to walk her through getting a passport, to help her walk through the stress of getting a visa. So they didn't do the visa application for her. The office wouldn't be able to do that, but they were there for her emotionally, to help her get a good timeline for applying for a visa, to help her make sure that she was doing what she was supposed to do. And when she arrived, she studied abroad in Brazil. She was interested in linguistic and cultural immersion. And she decided to stay abroad for a full year. And she decided to go to a city where she knew there weren't going to be a lot of other American students and tourists. So instead of going to Sao Paulo or Rio, some of the larger cities in Brazil, in terms of student study abroad, instead of doing that, she decided to go to Belo Horizonte. And Belo Horizonte is a city in the inside of the city, in the interior of Brazil. And she made some other decisions. First, she decided to do a homestay experience, and she had a great homestay family. She really enjoyed being with them. But as she was there, and because she was staying for a year, she learned that in the case of her university, where she was studying in Brazil, there were students, local students that lived far away, that they couldn't commute to campus. And there was actually a dorm living experience. So through that, she decided to shift because she wanted to have more on-campus experiences. She wanted to live more with young people her own age. So she switched from her homestay into this dorm experience and moved in with a group had roommates who were local Brazilians. And that really set her up for her language immersion. And she felt like she chose experiences that would push her out of her comfort zone, both from deciding to go to Belo Horizonte to her day-to-day decisions that would help her operate in Portuguese. So she joined a local, like a mentorship program for international students. She took classes and subjects that she hadn't really studied before. But most of her learning was kind of that people that she met on the ground, and she made herself very open to speaking with them and getting to know other students. So this is an example of really having a clear goal for language immersion or cultural immersion and sticking by it. So this meant that while Kat, she had a lot of desire to backpack and travel around, she decided to hold some of that off until after her semester because she really wanted to immerse herself. So she immersed herself during her study abroad in her local context. She wanted to be doing and learning about the types of things that locals did. And then she took some time after. And in fact, she backpacked around after graduation for a while. She ended up getting a job to work internationally before transitioning into the Office of Study Abroad. So immersion was the key to her success. All right. So a few tips that we're going to talk about. Let's see. The first thing I want you guys to do is to think about some of the things that you've done so far in your college career that have helped, that you feel are going well. What are the things that you've designed for yourself in your experience in college that are putting you on the path to where you want to go. So here's a QR code you can use your phone for. I'm gonna exit here in a second and just put in the chat. Let me get this link so that you could, if you're on your computer, you can also go in the chat. Oops, that's just to Anna. Let me do this to everyone. And fill out this survey. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to tell me about the things that you think are going well so far in your college experience. Whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to pull up this page to see what you guys are thinking about what's going well. Great. So it looks like a lot of you have been meeting people different than you at Tulane. You've also gained some independence at organizing your own time. A sense of belonging and community. So it looks like here on campus, I'm seeing that you felt like you started to build a sense of who you are in a community, and maybe you've had other people and experiences that have taught you a little bit more about difference and the things that maybe at one point you had taken for granted, but now you see that there might be different ways of doing and being in the world, and that you've had some chances to work on projects with impact, where you feel like you're making a difference and you're learning to build your own time. So I want to highlight that all of these skills are also skills that you can take with you during study abroad, and apply these in another cultural context. And sometimes, and the way things work is something a little bit different. So here's another one. This is a new one, a new QR code here for you. Where do you think challenges may arise for you during study abroad? So there's the QR code. One sec, let me give this new form for everyone in the chat. So this is during study abroad. Where are the challenges that might arise for you? What might be more difficult to do, or what might you do less of during study abroad? Let's see what you came up with. So yes, this idea, these things that went pretty well in while you were here. So the sense of belonging, feeling connected to a community, you're already acknowledging, well, that might feel a little bit more difficult while abroad because of cultural differences. So two things about that. One, within your cohort of study abroad, you are probably going to make connections with students that are perhaps even deeper than what you have here at Tulane. I know that sometimes might sound like, oh, if you really feel connected, you might not feel that is true, but there's something about going through these deep experiences with someone in this particular space and time of your life that really does influence and impact you. Of my own college experience, the people that I still keep in touch with now are people that I met abroad, or people I met traveling, more than people that friends that I met from my on-campus experience, which is interesting. So that's one thing to think about, and of how that time and period will really impact your life. But also this seeing where you think you might have challenges are the places to kind of lean into. So if you're thinking, okay, finding a community abroad might be difficult, what are the things that you can do now to plan for it? So for community, how can you get to know better where you're going? What types of experiences or hobbies might you do, or places might you connect to? So thinking about the examples of stories that I showed you at the beginning, what would work for you? You're going to have your own story. And then I see this asking for help might be hard in terms of, well, who do I ask? Who are my contacts here at Tulane? I know I've got my advisors. I know I know all the people that I go to for help, but abroad, who are those people? And that's a really great question for you to be focusing on now. Understand, who do I go for help and resources? You have a lot of resources during study abroad, but oftentimes students don't take advantage of everything just because they haven't quite realized how they do it or where. The classroom setting is going to be really different from abroad. The way that a syllabus looks, the way the exams, everything's going to be different. So finding out who are the people that are going to help you understand those experiences. So connecting with people that have gone on your study abroad program is a great place to start with that right now. Awesome. Okay, so with that, thanks for that little survey. It gives us a sense of the room, and the ones that you felt that were the most challenges, those are where I want you to lean in to think about how you'll design something different. So I talked about the beginning about how I got into ethnography when I studied abroad. So ethnography is when you do a deep study of a culture or a people. It's a term, it's a type of research used in anthropology and sociology. So it's interviewing people, it's doing participant observation. So right now, think about interviewing different people who have studied abroad and learning the ins and outs of the different experiences. What was easy? You might go to a place where there'll be certain aspects of making community that'll be really easy, and other aspects that are going to be really challenging. And you won't know that until you start speaking with others. So think about your study abroad experience. What do you acknowledge as ideal? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Do you want to be immersed in the environment? Do you want to be immersed in your local city? Do you want to meet other students at other universities and learn to travel together? Each one of these is skill building in different ways. What are the things that you will do? So we're going to have a little bit of an interactive part now. If you have a piece of paper and a pen, that would be helpful. Or if you're on your phone, you can do it in a note. I want you to make 4 categories. One, I want you to think about academics. So if you're in a piece of paper, you can draw a grid like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you're just on your phone, you can make the notes. But I want you to have 4 categories: academics. So that might be the types of classes you're going to take, what your classes look like. Do you know if you're going to have discussion-based or if it's going to be all lecture-based? Do you know if you're going to have workshops that might help you learn about different careers? So oftentimes programs have lots of, put you in contact with lots of different organizations and nonprofits and let you see things from different perspectives. So what do the academics look like on your program? And if you don't know, in the second category, you think about, okay, what do I still need to research? Are there things I need to decide to do or not do, or that I need to search for? Like, am I interested to know if there are opportunities to do a research project? Do I even know if that's possible? And do they have applications I need to apply to? So that's category 1. Think about your academics abroad. What will it look like? Category 2 is your program services. So what exists to help you out, to help you be your best self abroad? So what kind of support do you get if you're enrolling in classes? What does the drop add period look like? Do you know? What happens? How are you going to manage any sorts of health issues or crises that you might have, whether that's physical health or mental health? Do you know the services in place? Do you know how that will look like? If you're interested in an internship, how are they placed? And then who's going to help you navigate the cultural hurdles? So if you have if you're in a homestay and you're having difficulty navigating a cultural difference, or if you are in a roommate situation and with another study abroad student and you have a difficulty navigating a cultural experience, who would you go to? What are your support services? The three, I want you to think about your residential life, which is kind of all your experiences outside of the classroom. So what kind of housing are you choosing? Where do you think you can study to best meet your goals? Are there any hobbies or sports that you want to get involved in? What does eating look like? Are you going to cook? Are you going to learn to cook where you are? Are you going to learn to, what does the dining look like in the case of where you're going to be? And I want you to think about your technology. Do you know what kind of apps that they use? How do people connect? How would you meet a local and connect with them internationally? Do they use WhatsApp? Do they use some other form of connection? And how will you connect with people back home? Because the more that you connect back home also takes you away from where you are. So how do you kind of make that balance? And then the fourth category is I want you to really think about your host city and how you think you're going to make friends. What's your plan for getting to know the ins and outs of your city? So in each of these categories, what is it that you need to research, or what decisions do you need to make in these categories? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'm going to set the timer for you to take your notes individually on these categories. And then I'm going to, yes, so 2 minutes, go. All right. I'm going to pull up our chat here. And using your chat function now, tell me what you guys came up with in the category of academics. What is something that you need to research or decide upon to make a better academic experience for yourself? Type into the chat for me. What do you know about academics in your host country? What are some of your gaps in knowledge that you want to learn about? Type in the chat. Nice. Find the syllabus for your classes so that you can figure out if it works for your major or minor credit, to see if it works for your core credit. Nice. We got some program extracurriculars. What extracurriculars will you join? Figure out how classes are structured. Very good. If there's research that you want to do, researching your living options. Learning more about classroom culture, figuring out the professors. That's a great way to know if there's a particular professor that you will want to do research with. How do office hours work? And a lot of these universities, there's not going to be office hours in the same way. It'll be very strict times. And so sometimes the best time to meet with a professor might be right before or right after class. Yep, the credits you're receiving. Good. Awesome. So you guys are coming up with some good things. For time, give me other, what did you come up with for program services, for residential life, or host city? What other things did you write about in any of the categories now of things that you want to work on and do? Extracurriculars. Great. Okay. So you guys are interested in extracurriculars, getting to know your host city. So figuring out what to do, having a better sense of homestay experiences are amazing. But also having a good understanding of what happens in them. What can you expect? What can they expect? How will you navigate cultural differences? Yeah, thinking about campus, where you'll exercise, what kind of recreation you'll do. Awesome. These are great. So with that, where to work out and buy groceries. One of the best cultural experiences you can do is going to the grocery store, shopping, trying to prepare a meal in another cultural setting. Lovely. So I'm gonna take this off here. I'm gonna give you, let's see, I'm gonna stop this screen share for a second. And I'm going to send you into breakout rooms just for 2 minutes for you all to share anything that you learned and liked, or to just trade contacts. You guys may be going to similar places. So I'm going to put you in breakout rooms only to say, hi, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm studying abroad. Here's one thing I learned. And I'm going to bring you right back for the end of the session. Here we go. Let's see, let me do. All right. We are all joining back. I hope you had a chance to meet someone else who's going to be studying abroad. You all are your best resources. You guys are all doing research right now. So ask your friends, how are they preparing? What are they doing to get ready for this study abroad experience? I thank you for being here. Thanks for getting up early and being part of this session. We're closing out. To this QR code here will take you to be able to sign in that you were present at this session today. And I'm looking forward to learning more about your study abroad semester. You can talk to me any Tuesday at Global Cafe from 2 to 4 in the mezzanine of the LBC, or feel free to make an appointment here at our office. Thank you all for joining. Have a great day. I'll stick on the line for a little while in case there are any individual questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see a few people need me to send the link. I will send the link. Give me 1 sec. I'll pull it up. Here's the attendance link in case you need it.